Okay, guys, so basically, we do a show called Geek World. So for people who are into a lot of stuff you've done, Jane, like genre stuff, like Buffy, like what about husbands could get them excited about seeing it?
Well, it's smart. I think it's a geek-centric show because it's a geek sensibility, even though it's not necessarily what you would think of as traditionally geek. It's a witty person's humor, a thinking person's humor. And it has a lot of great geek cameos, including Joss Whedon as a Hollywood agent, and some other great geek actors playing against type. And what would you say, Jane?
I also think there's a huge amount of overlap between the geek community and the gay community that hasn't always been acknowledged. There's a whole convention called BentCon that we go to every year that's exactly about that overlap. And I think there's something about being an outcast that everybody in those communities understands, and this sort of I think there's a lot of, you can identify a lot of people can look at Cheeks and Brady and go like, oh, I get them, I understand them, they feel like real people who are like me.
Yeah. Well, and also I think geek is a broad term. I think it gets associated with sci-fi or fantasy, but geek really to me just means passionate about a thing. And I think it'd be kind of insulting to say, oh, well, you're interested in geek stuff, so clearly you don't like comedy, or clearly you're not interested in action. Like, of course I am. Like, why wouldn't I be?
Totally. Well, and we totally agree. We feel the same way. Everyone's geeky about something. So what are some of the exciting things we can expect for this upcoming season?
Well, we have some pretty awesome guest stars. Amy Acker gives an amazing performance as a jilted lover. And really high stakes, a really compelling story, and I think that everything about it is improved. I feel like the cinematography improved, the performances improved, we've gelled as a cast. I think it's funnier, I think it's more authentic and emotional.
And talking about appeal to the geek audience, we got Amy Acker, we got Seth Green, and we got Michael Hogan from Battlestar Galactica. We got Beth Grant, who's been in everything, including an episode of Angel. And
Beth Grant, if you don't know the name immediately, was the Sparkle Motion woman in Donnie Darko.
Ah, there you go. I totally know now.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, what is it like pulling all these people you've worked with to bring onto this project?
What's it been like pulling them in?
Yeah.
It hasn't even been pulling them in. It's been like we planted this flag, and then people ran up to the flag and saluted it. It's been, the response from performers has been amazing, and from crew members, like people want to come work on our set and be a part of the show. We had a bunch of volunteer PAs this last time, running around to get things for us and help decorate the house and everything. People are really drawn to this project.
Now, if you guys could, if you have a dream guest star that you could get on this show, who would it be?
There's so many. I would love to see Jennifer Tilly. Either woman from Absolutely Fabulous. Who would you say?
Yeah. I don't know. I'm enjoying working with Robert Carlyle these days. He's amazing. He can do anything. I'd love to see him come on in.
Now, Jane, you've written some of the most iconic, not only funny, but really daring, TV episodes ever. I love Band Candy, for instance. I think it's the funniest thing ever. For you, what are you most proud of? If you could pick one thing that you've written.
Husbands. I am most proud of Husbands, which I didn't write alone. I wrote it with Brad, but I think it is. Joss always says have a reason to tell the story. It's something that you personally care about. Your personal credo should be inside the story that you're telling. And I found someone who shared a credo with me, and we made a show that says the thing we want to say, and that's why you do this.
And it's without network filter, so it's certainly the purest version of anything that you've written, because there's no network that's going to come along and say, no, can't do this, can't do that. And it's collaborative. I mean, I feel like when you're in a situation where you're working with showrunners on massive franchises, they have the right to come along and say, this is going to be the line. Nobody overrides each other in this situation. It's a fusion.
So how do you guys feel about, you're really helping pave the way for new media shows. Like you said, you don't need a studio really anymore. You can kind of do that. Talk about, is that great, or is there something in the studio system that makes it more difficult?
Makes it difficult. Interesting. I was going to say, like, one of the things we realized is, like, there's a reason that studio executives are very useful and helpful, and we had to sort of be our own executives. So we have a new respect for the old system.
Well, I don't think... I don't know. I don't think we ever doubted it, you know?
Right.
I think that the problem is that system, the network system, is sometimes clamped a little too hard. But we like structure. We always have had a page limit, had a time limit. We kind of establish what the limits are creatively and technically for us, and work within those limits because that's why they exist. And then we try to look at it objectively when we have a draft and put executive hats on and say, like, is this information clear? Do we like this character? And I think it works.
One of the things we love about the CW is that the CWC people that we're working with are allowing us all that freedom, but providing us the support and help. It's like the perfect marriage of the new and the old.
And how are you guys talking about marriage equality on a show like this?
How are we talking about it?
Like what is sort of how are you progressing the conversation?
Well, I think, to start with, we're dealing with the issue of gay divorce. And why can't people who are gay married get gay divorced? Because they are judged harsher, People are still fighting for those rights. And I think that when you do something both positive and negative, it is the equivalent of what a straight couple might do. As a gay couple, you're held to a different standard. And I don't think that's really a conversation anybody's having yet, at least not in the mainstream. It's not at the forefront of conversation among people. And, I mean, that's episode 1 of our show is, oh, crap, we got married, we can't get divorced.
Yeah. I want to make clear, Cheeks and Brady are not getting divorced. Yeah. But it is a conversation they had very early on.
But the whole reason they're married is because they can't get divorced.
Exactly. Yeah, and we're dealing with, I think some people, the conversation goes as far as gay marriage good. And we want to say marriage complicated. That's the difference in the conversations.
Now, Jane, I just need to ask you a question real quick. I'm a child of the 80s. I got to know, what was it like working on Dinosaurs?
Oh, my God, it was so much fun. That was my very first time I was ever in a writer's room. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I was just looking around me with great big eyes. And, just like Chicks and Brady in their new marriage, I was making every mistake but learning from them. And I had the best time. And getting to go down on that stage. The whole stage was built 3 feet off the ground so that the puppeteers could be under the stage for the hand puppets. So you walked up these stairs. It was like no other stage in town. There were these enormous, you could walk up and try to hug the dinosaurs. You couldn't get your hands more than that. It was extraordinary. It was such and you knew at the time, this will never be done again. This is something just for this moment. It was amazing.
And how did you guys start working together?
We were friends for a while, and we would talk about things and the creative choices that people made in certain projects, movies, TV shows, books, and we just found that we were always on the same page. So we decided to make that literal and get on the same page and write something.
Yeah, absolutely. Brad wrote in a way that was sort of indistinguishable from me, I found. He would write things and I would go, I don't remember writing that. Oh, Brad wrote that. And it's well, this is great. This is perfect.
How much fun is it to write something and have Joss Whedon come in and act it out?
Oh, it's great, but it's also nerve-wracking. It's we're sending the dialogue to Joss that he's going to have to read.
That was nerve-wracking. Sending Joss the script was nerve-wracking. Hearing Joss say, oh my God, I'd love to do this.
Yeah.
I have 3 hours, on Sunday, a month from now. Let's do it. Once that happened, I felt really good.
Yeah.
And I think he was more racked with nerves when he came in to actually perform. But he was flawless. He was perfect.
And I just have one more question. I know, for people who were writers of Buffy, they always say some of the best stuff was from Joss when you would get your script. Were you afraid when you handed that first script to him that he'd start giving you notes?
Oh, I was hoping you would give us notes. Like, you get notes from Joss Whedon, you get a line pitch from Joss Whedon. What we ended up getting from him was line readings that were different than what we'd expected and better. So we did have that Joss experience of like, oh, I think this is good, and then Joss makes it better. It happens every time.
Even with acting. It's
Yeah.
like, wow.
Yeah.
Super. Well, thank you both so much for spending time with us.
Yeah.